I don't know what happened. I don't know why I look like this. I don't know why I have these clothes. I don't know why I have a sword. The last thing I remember, I saw the announcement for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade for the Nintendo Switch 2. I clicked on the video, my head started getting a little fuzzy, I got a headache, and when I woke up, I was dressed like this. Now I have a sword. I don't understand what happened, I don't remember. What do I do? What am I supposed to do with this? I don't know whose clothes these are. I don't know whose gloves these are. I don't know whose sword this is. I don't know whose pants these are. I think I have the memories of one of my coworkers from 5 years ago. My eye color change? Holy shit. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. I guess I could take a look at the trailer for Final Fantasy VII on the Switch 2. It's not even 40 seconds long. I don't know if I will be able to notice anything in a trailer that's that short, but we'll take a look at it, and I don't know who to see about this. I've got a screaming headache. I think I've got a Mako headache, and I think they don't even make anything for that, so. Alright, let's take a look at the trailer. Okay, I guess we can go through this a couple times. This is Naoko Hamaguchi. Um, this is such a cool scene. I grew up with Final Fantasy VII. It's probably the game that is the most important to me developmentally as just someone who appreciates video games, but as an artist. The original Final Fantasy VII was a game that changed my perspective that video games were not just toys. They weren't just fun. They can be works of art. They can be beautiful, and they can really connect to people. So it's so fantastic to see this on the Switch 2. The approach that I want to take from taking a look at this is, does this tell us how strong, how capable the Switch 2 will actually be? And already from the get-go, I can see so many tells here. There is true volumetric lighting at high resolution. I can tell that from the light bulbs here. There's volumetric atmospheric density here. It's a rendering technique we use to simulate a sense of density in the atmosphere, moisture, dirt, particles, dust, and the fact that we have it so dense here, and this is high resolution. Now, usually you can have some volumetric lighting and volumetric fog on the original Switch, but you have to have a much lower resolution on that atmospheric lighting and the volumetric lighting, and here it's quite high resolution. We can see that the Switch 2 is very happy to have its extremely high resolution textures on the character here. And of course the frame rate's going to be jumpy. This is on YouTube, it's never that great. What I don't see here is compression artifacting. That is something that we see in games. We use compression techniques to make the file sizes smaller for textures. So things that define the color, the bumpiness, and the shininess of these materials. Usually the compression process will introduce some issues, so you can see it kind of makes it look like a JPEG, where it's a little bit low quality. I don't see that issue. This looks great. I don't see any artifacting. The hairs, obviously, extremely high resolution. There is depth of field, and that is where the player character, or not the player, the objects that are close to the camera are in focus, and then the objects, the scene that is in the background, blurs out. It is a photographic technique on game hardware and on computers. It's generally one of the more expensive rendering techniques. Also, what I see here is subsurface scattering. Subsurface scattering is something that occurs in the real world where light enters an object and then the light bounces around inside the object and the light bounces out of the object. It's what has made games and movies look so realistic, because it makes us just subconsciously think, oh, that must be a real object because light is bouncing through it in an organic way. The vast majority of things that we see in the natural world have some translucency to them. For example, human skin has some translucency to it. What we see here is light entering from behind and above cloud, and then that light is bouncing around inside of his arms, and then the light comes out the other side. You see a little bit here as well. That is very costly in terms of performance. Every game hardware has a rendering budget, and subsurface scattering is quite expensive. It's a more advanced technique. It's not necessarily that difficult to implement. There's so many solutions that are, sort of come with rendering engines and game engines these days. But the fact that I see that and it's handling it so easily tells me that the Switch will not have to, the Switch 2 will not have to compromise on anything. Again, the frame rate is quite stuttery. I'm watching this on YouTube. My primary concern when you see so many particles on screen like that, that is one of the more expensive things to render. Having transparent geometry, transparent particles on screen is generally quite expensive. At least it has been in the past for game hardware. But I believe what we see, not just with Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, but with other games that we've seen as well shown for Switch 2, is I believe this is telling us that the Switch 2 just has brute force power, and it doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Some of these slash effects have pixel warping, where you can see it sort of deforms pixels and there's blurring there. That also has a pretty high performance cost, and I'm not seeing the game struggle here. Again, the frame rate is not great because of YouTube, but in terms of consistency, this looks like it's going to be just fine because it's staying consistent from what I can see. We won't really know until we have the games in our hands. Maybe there will be a demo, but this to me is very, very telling here. We can have so much advanced lighting, multiple real-time light sources. I am seeing real-time ambient occlusion. That's basically where, in real time, the game engine is adding shadows where surfaces contact each other. It isn't necessarily realistic, but it adds a contrast between the light and the dark areas. It's visually appealing. It looks really nice to have ambient occlusion or screen space ambient occlusion. I'm seeing it used a fair bit here. Something like that is quite expensive on the original Switch, but it looks like here on the Switch 2, it's really not an issue. I love sparkles. The sparkles represent power, and give me them sparkles. They look real powerful. Look at them slashing. Look at the particle effects. Really cool. It's just visually eye-catching. It's appealing. Here we have a great use of volumetric lighting, as we have the light from the Mako below illuminating the moisture in the air. We have the fog particles here that are catching the light in an interesting way from the grate here. I'm seeing chromatic aberration, depth of field, motion blur. Come on, just a little bit longer. Did they have to cut it there? It's not The Sopranos. Something like this is such an iconic look for Cloud. But if we just pause and have a look here, I don't see any artifacting. I don't see any compromise when it comes to the resolution of the textures. This is great. This is really fantastic. I think people have a lot of reason to look forward to this. This looks so great. But I can tell this game is going to take up a lot of space. This is going to be, in terms of storage capacity, it's going to be big. I think we're going to have to accept that there are going to be some compromises here and there. But that, whoa, holy crap, he moved really fast there. Can we just go back and look at that? Wow, you really teleported there. So I believe Hamaguchi-san said, he mentioned this is the first of 3. And to me, that's quite clear that they will bring the next game, which is already out, that will bring that to the Switch 2, and then the final game in the trilogy, they will bring that to the Switch 2 as well. So this looks great. This is really fantastic. I think they've done a great job. Obviously, there's so much work you have to do as a developer. You have to do so much optimizing for each individual console, and every console has its own quirks. Things that seem like they should work, they don't actually work. You have to find solutions, and so it's not a simple matter of pressing a button or copying and pasting. There's so much more work you have to do. Anyway, that's all I really have to share today. I mean, the video is 34 seconds long. I think it says everything it needs to say, so that was really cool, really fantastic. I'm so glad to see this. I don't know about my Mako poisoning. I don't know if this goes away or if I need to see something about it. But I mean, while I'm here, I've always wanted to do this. Yawatashi wa kattaze. Yeah, did I do it? Did I do it right?